All right, so what is a variable? A variable is like a container. Variables are container, placeholder, whatever you want to call it, elements that we can use to store data and then use that data by the variable name. So we can refer to that data by using that variable's name. So let's say, for example, I make a variable called names. Inside that variable, we put the name, let's say, for example, Edwin. And then we can use the name of that variable names to refer to that specific name. Let me show you exactly what a variable is. Variables are very powerful and they're useful. We use them in all kinds of programming languages, and it's something that you need to actually use. So let me show you an example how we create variables and how we use them. So let's say, for example, I'm going to use the blank.php, and now don't get confused by all the files you see here. You should have that in your exercise files. All right, so I'm going to use this blank.php. I'm going to do a save as on this document, and I'm going to call this variables. Sometimes I might have more files than you, depending on where you are on the lesson, but all these files should be in your course exercise files. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and open a PHP tag, and I'm gonna close it right away. So I'm going to show you exactly how we define variables. Variables are defined in a very easy format. We use a $sign with PHP, and it changes in programming languages. In some programming languages we use the word var, but on this one we're going to be using a $sign following the name of the variable. And I just want to name it this. I can name it whatever I want. I can even name a number if I want to. All right, so I'm just going to name it name. And then that's it. The variable is done. Now keep in mind that this variable is empty. You're not even using this variable right now. Most of the time what you're going to see is that you're going to see the variable, and you're going to see the variable declare here and assign a value right away. This is the way you're going to see the variable. It's not, you're never going to find it like this, because variables, we make it for a reason. We make them to use and to store data. So we use something called an assignment operator right here to assign the variable a name, or assign it a value, right? Whatever. So we want to just assign it right now Edwin. We use, for strings, we know we use double quotes or apostrophes, or we can use single quotes to put strings in there. All right, this is how we write strings or texts in programming languages. Most of the time we need to put quotes around it. This is not only in PHP but in many different programming languages. If we want to store numbers in there, actually let me just put it in the bottom there. Let's make another variable called number. And we can go ahead and, numbers don't have quotes. This is how PHP knows it's a number. We don't put quotes around it. All right, so now how can we use these variables? How can we use them? Well, let's use a function called echo, and let's echo this out. Let's open the browser by clicking on this little icon right here, and we can see right now that we are displaying the name Edwin, the value Edwin, by using the variable name. So now we can refer to this data right here by using the variable name, and we can do the same thing with this one. All right, so now what are the typical use, how we usually write variables? Well, this is the normal syntax. All right, syntax, I mean the way you write it. You can write variables like this, all capital if you want. You can put the first capital, you can put an underscore, and then you can just name it like this, however you want. You can name it however you think is good for you. Now, for best practices, the best way to write is all lowercase, and then if you have a second word, you uppercase the first letter, and then you can finish writing in all lowercase. This is the best format to write variables. Another format that I use is this one, underscore list, and sometimes I uppercase this one here. All right, you will see it like this. Okay, we see it very often like this. There are many different ways. Don't do this. This is a bad format. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna write them down. This is okay. I'm gonna write that. All right, this is not okay, what I'm about to do right now. This one here. Don't write your variables like this. The reason is because it can get confused by thinking that you are subtracting something from something. So this is a bad format. You cannot start a variable with a number like this. It will not work. Just know, you see we got an error right here as long when I wrote that. Okay, we got an error right here also, and now we're good. You see, this is a bad format. I'm just gonna comment this out. We can also keep in mind that when you write a variable, keep in mind that this variable, I'm gonna write it right here. This variable and this variable are different, even though they are named the same. The reason is because it's case sensitive. So any word, any letter that you change here will make this variable different from this one. All right, so even if you have something like this and you just have this one lowercase, this is a totally different variable than this right here. All right, and you can play around with it and find out for yourself there. All right, there are many different ways we can declare variables, but make sure they don't have a number. They make sure they don't have hyphen in between. Right, and always make sure that you write the same variable again. If you want to use it, make sure that you write it exactly the same if you are referring to the same variable. Okay, so now we can store many different data types in here. And what are data types? Well, we have many different data types in programming. This is a string data type, text, right? We have numbers. This is an integer, and we could also have a floating point number. That's what it's called because it has a decimal place right here. Now this type of numbers in PHP take more memory, right? Because we have a decimal point, so PHP needs to do a little bit more processing for this type of numbers. Keep in mind that if you enclose these numbers in quotes and apostrophes, you change the data type to a string, to a text. All right, so now PHP is gonna treat this as a string, not as a number. So even though PHP will kind of sometimes represent this as a number, it would think that it is a string. Even though you can still add this string with another string, and PHP will still do it, but in most cases it will not do it. So you cannot make calculations like you can make with the data number type, right? Because this is a string. PHP is not going to allow that. In some cases it will, in some cases it will not. So better get used to it. When you're writing numbers, never put quotes around it. Okay? Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is concatenation. And I'm going to take this moment here to talk to you about that. The reason, because I don't need to make another video just to tell you that you can put data together in PHP with a dot, which is called concatenation. And for example, this variable here has this value. I want to put this value, Edwin, right, which is this value. I want to put it together with a number 100. So I'm going to copy this variable right here. I put a dot right here, and I'm just going to copy it there. And as you can see here, it already printed out 100 for me because that is the value right here for this variable. Okay, now it is all together. We can put a little separation there by concatenating a string, an empty string, and as you can see, it moved a little bit to the right. So as you can see, this concatenation will smash words together. It will put words. It would not only put words, but any data type that you want to put together, use a dot. Make sure that you have a dot between this element and the other element right here. All right. Right now we have a string in between here, so we need another concatenation there to concatenate the string with the variable. Okay, of course you can, this is how you put things together. All right, just letting you know. Another thing that you can do also, and I will probably show you, actually as a matter of fact I will show you in another video here. I think we are good with time here. So This is it. This is it. That's it. That's it. As a matter of fact, let me just show you a couple more things actually. Let me take 1 minute to do. All right. So we know that with this function we can also use, let me just write another variable here. We can put all kinds of data I told you about, and we can put HTML in there. So we can write something like this: hello, put an HTML h1 tag in there and close it right here. All right. And this is gonna do two things, and I'm gonna show you what they're gonna do right now. Look at this. So we were able to use a HTML tag inside a string and put it and assign it to this variable right here, and we were able to display it below. So we can assign HTML tags to variables. Keep that in mind. We can assign images to variables. Right? We can assign many different types of data into a variable, but always keep in mind that we can only assign one value at a time. We cannot go ahead and put a comma here and put another comma and assign different values. Like we can't assign, we can't assign different values. And I will let you know how that works later on when we talk about arrays. All right. So just keep in mind that you can only assign one value with variables. Later on, we're going to be talking about another different type of variable that we can assign multiple values to it. All right, so keep that in mind. Anyway, I hope you were able to get some valuable knowledge out of this lesson, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Take care. Hi, welcome back. On this video, we are going to be learning how to do math in PHP. So let's go ahead and open our code editor. And don't mind these files here if you don't have all these files, because I might make lectures before this one here that are not related to the ones you got in your computer. So right now, all you have to care about is that you have to just open up blank.php, and we're going to be doing a save as. Sometimes I decide to make different lectures later on when I'm already done with a lot of lectures. So I would make another lecture and put it right in the middle of my course, because I just wanted to add it to the course. So I would have other files involved there, and you might not have certain files. So don't worry about that. Just worry about the lecture. So worry about this blank.php, that it should be in your course exercise file. It doesn't matter in what part of the course I am. All right. So we got to make a save as on this blank.php. All right. I'm just going to close this. All right. So let's open up a PHP tag here, and let's talk about math. Very simple. So math, what is math? Well, we know that math is just calculating numbers. In PHP, we do math like we do in real life. So we say, let's say I want to print out 56 plus 45, and we can see that it adds it up right away. We have this internal calculator working for us. What I really wanted to show you is that you can do math, you can do addition, and I'm just gonna, you can also do subtraction. Let's do an echo right in between here, so that way we have a break there. Let's close it. All right. We can do multiplication. Let's just copy this whole thing there. And I'm just showing you the syntax. Multiplication like this with an asterisk. All right, this should be your number A on your keyboard. We also can do division like this with a forward slash. And this is called a floating number, right? Because we have a decimal in there. This is an integer because it's a whole number. You should know that by now. All right, so we can do this like this. And another thing that we could do is, let me just put another break tag right here. Make some two spaces. Is that we can 45 add two numbers, then we can multiply, then we can divide it, then we can subtract it. We can do a whole bunch of different things like this, and it will still calculate it for us. It will do just like a regular calculator. Now let me do another one, last one, because I want to show you something very important. I want to show you the order of operation to do functions. I mean, to do math. All right, so the last one gave us a 55, and you might be wondering, why in the world is that? If 5 plus 5 is 10, 10 plus 10 times 10 is 100, not 55. Why did it gave us that? Well, the order operation in PHP is the same, and mostly in all programming languages, is the same as your basic math from school. Do you remember that you need to put parentheses in order for you to add certain elements before certain elements, or multiply or calculate certain elements before certain elements, right? So if I wanted to add this before I multiply it, I would go ahead and put parentheses around it and save it, and that you can see here this changed to 100 because we are adding 5 plus 5 before we multiply this. So we add 5 plus 5 is 10, and 10 plus 10 is 100. So with parentheses we can change the order of operation of numbers. We know that multiplication goes before. That's why we got 55 last time, because we say 5 times 10 is 50, and then 50 plus 5 is 55. And division, the same thing with division. Division goes first. 5 divided by 10, by 5, 5 divided by 10, right? Or 10 divided by 5. And then that plus 5 is 5.5. All right? So remember that division, multiplication goes before addition and subtraction, always, and that's just the basic order of operation. I wanted to show you that before we continue and you see any other math involved in the course. Very simple to do that. We can also, just for the record, I'm gonna do an echo here. We can save this in variables, all right, and also do calculations with it. Just you know, just to give you an example here. And we can go ahead and echo number, well, this got to make it different variables, of course. Number 1 plus number 2, right? And that's 36, because 12 and 24 is 36, and then we can multiply here. All right, that should give you some basic knowledge about math and how we can do it with PHP. So give you some knowledge about order of operation there. And that's all the math you need right now for this course. Of course, I will also give you some more information about some other type of calculations that PHP offers for us. Of course, built-in functions. All right, so those built-in functions are going to help us calculate and do other things with numbers that we need in order for us to make our programs more flexible and extendable. Anyways, I hope this was very useful to you and you were able to learn a lot in this lecture, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next one. So take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi, on this video we are going to be learning about arrays, and arrays are something wonderful in programming because we can store multiple types of data inside one container. If you remember, we talked about variables, and we said, you know, variables, we can store data in variables, but we were only able to store one single value inside a variable, right? Arrays are variables with superpower. That's what arrays are. Arrays, you can store any type of data, not only any type of data, but many times over and over again. Let me show you exactly what an array is, and let me show you how to use them. So let's go ahead and open our code editor, and I'm gonna grab that blank.php, and I'm gonna do a save as here. And like I said, don't mind the files that I got on the left side there. Just know that you have that in your course exercise files. You might not have some of these files here, but believe me, we will go over everything I'm going over right now in the lecture is what you should have in your exercise files. All right, whatever you see here, sometimes it might not be accurate because I will delete some of these files and we'll do it again depending if I make a mistake on a lecture or something like that. So anyways, arrays.php, that's gonna be the file name. And let me show you first. Let's just open up a PHP tag and let me show you the syntax of it, how we write it down, just like the variable, right? We say that an array is just like a variable with superpowers, right? So we're gonna be using the dollar sign because it's a variable basically, right? But we're gonna give it some superpowers. So we're going to be saying number list. I'm gonna name it number list, right? And the way we assigned this variable superpower to make it an array is by assigning it an array function, right? Look at that right here. So that looks like very much like a function, right? Well, it is a function in a way, right? Because it has parentheses here, and that's what a function is, by the way, in PHP. You're going to see a name like this, and then you're going to see a parenthesis and a semicolon, right? And functions in PHP do many different things. In this case, this is gonna make this variable, is gonna give this variable superpowers, and now we're gonna call this variable array now. And I told you that we can store many different values inside here, and that's what I'm about to do right now. Look at this. All right, we can't do this with arrays, by the way, with variables. And look at this. And I'm going to do this. I love arrays, by the way, because we can do so many different things with it. All right, so all right, let me just make this a little bigger here so that way we can see what we are doing. All right, so let's just make this so that way it can go to the second line there. All right, so let's make sure that we have a separator there, and actually right here. There we go. All right, I think we're good. All right, so we have this array here with many different type of values in there. We even have an h1 saying hello there. So we have, now one thing I gotta tell you about an array is that these values here, each of these values are called indexes. And the index in an array starts with 0. So this first spot right here, this number, is index 0. And I'm going to show you in a minute the structure right behind the array inside this page right here when we publish it on the browser. So let me first show you that if we go ahead and see this here, we don't have anything. All right, that's a good thing because we don't have no errors. But how do we show an array? How do we display the information? Let's use an echo function, and let's say, let's just display array this number list on the screen. We get an error. Array to string conversion, not possible, right? So we have an error here. So how we display this data here? Well, I already told you that arrays have indexes, right? We have an index of 0 here, index of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 values. So we start at 0 and we have 5 values in here, but we start with 0. And the way we do that, if we want to display that value on the browser, we need to refer to it by the index number. And that index is 0. And we use brackets around it to refer to that, and I'll show you in a minute why we use that. And as you can see here, I'm displaying 267, so I'm displaying index 0. We use the name of the array following by brackets, and inside the brackets we type in the index. This is index 0, like I said. Now let me show you when I mean index 0 what it is. So I'm just gonna comment that out. And I did this. This is the same way we do it in HTML, basically. Well, in HTML, we do it like this. We comment things out like this, right? Well, on PHP, we just use / twice. And that's a single line. And I'm just repeating this. I might have told you already how to do this, but just in case. And the forward slash and little star here will do everything until we close it like this. All right, and I think you do it like that on CSS, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So anyways, so we got this there, we're referring to it. Let me just comment this out like I was gonna do, and let me show you the structure of an array. So I'm gonna use a function. This is a built-in function in PHP called print r. Right there, you see the parentheses there, and I'm going to put the name of this array inside here, and when I come out here, I'm gonna show you the structure of it. All right, let me take this hello out of there because that's getting, actually I'm gonna leave it there. And that's the hello we have, I think, on the fifth spot, the last one. So we said that we need to refer to the first item to 67 by the index number right here. All right, you see that the index right here is 0, so, and it has brackets. That's how an array is constructed inside. It has brackets in there around that 0. So we refer to it by the name of the array and by the brackets and the index 0. If we wanted the second value here, we refer to it by brackets and the number 1. As you can see here, we can do that. Let's take the print r there. Let's just comment this out by pressing command and the forward slash, or control the forward slash on Windows. I'm gonna do the same thing to take it off, and I'm gonna refer to it by the number 1. Let's see what we get. We get a second value, all right, 8765. If we do 4, we get 345, which is almost the last value. I really wanted to get number 5, and we get 5, which is this one, hello. Right? So this is how we take information out of the array and use it. Very useful. All right? We can put whatever we want into an array, and arrays are actually the number one containers we use in programming, even though variables are something that we use all the time. But arrays, you're going to find yourself using it a lot more than variables, since we can hold more multiple data inside an array. All right? And there are different types of array, and we're going to be talking about that later. All right, so anyways, thank you so much for watching this lecture here, and hopefully you were able to learn some valuable information, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Hi, on this video we're going to be learning about a different kind of arrays, associative arrays. These arrays are arrays that don't need to be ordered like the ones that we already did. These arrays can be called by name. We can refer to it by names, by labels. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. I'm going to show you right now immediately how we do this. So let's go ahead and open our co-editors. And for those of you that don't know where we are, remember that we are in localhost, demo, and here on this root directory, okay? This is what we're doing right here. And this is right here in my co-editor. All right, so I'm just gonna minimize this, and let's do a save as like we always do in a blank.html. Not blank.html, blank.php. I don't know why I don't get used to it. I don't even use HTML. But anyways, so we're gonna call this arrays ASSOC for associative. I don't want to write the whole thing, all right? So let's open up our PHP tags, and let's go ahead and jump right to it. We know that the regular arrays are defined like this. We have a variable right here, and then we can go ahead and write an array like this here, right? We know that. And this becomes an array, a regular array. We can put some values in here saying something like maybe, let's just put some numbers in here, 10, 20, 45. Well, actually that's 49. And then we can go ahead and echo it like this. We refer to it like this, number with some square brackets in here. And if I want to print out this number here, I just say 20, right? And we go and we see this on the browser and see, oh, actually I got a mistake right here. Make sure we fix that. All right, undefined 20 offset. Of course, we need to, there we go. All right, so we know that we can print out the values of an array like this. All right. All right, this is a normal array. Let's make an associative array, and you're gonna see the difference immediately. Let me just put a break tag right here, so that way when we echo the next array, it will be on the next line. So let me show you what an associative array is. Let's call this names. All right, and very simple. We're gonna create the same keyword here, and we're using the old version of writing this. All right, we can use the shorthand version like this. Remember that, like this. But just for illustration purposes only, I want to write it like this. That way you know this is an array. All right. So an associative array has labels. We know that the first value here is in something called an index. This index is 0, this one is 1, and this one is 2, depending on the values that you got here. We start from 0 and we end on whatever amount, whatever values we got here, right? We got 20 values, we will end on that 20 values. And this is called, we know that this is called 0. So this needs to be in order. In order for me to print this out on the screen, I need to remember where this is and what spot this is. Right now we're printing out the third value, 0, 1, and 2 right here. So I need to remember that this is in that spot right there for me to print it. Imagine if I have 1,000 values inside this array. How am I going to remember where that specific value is, right? And let's say, for example, these were names. So if, let's say this was Jose here, and this was, I don't know, Maria, and this was Juanita. I don't know where I got all these names. I think Mexico or something. All right, so if I have all these names here, imagine if I got 1,000 names and I want to go ahead and print out one of them. And I say, okay, Jose, I think is in spot number 1,000, on index 1,000. That would be crazy, right? Well, associative arrays are going to help us out. You see, we need these arrays in certain occasions, but for when labeling your data inside an array is important, you need associative arrays. When you don't care about the order of your data inside the array, then you can use the normal arrays, right? But right now we care about the data. I want to be able to find data inside my arrays by label. For example, if I have a list of names, I want to be able to find it in here. So I'm going to call this first name. Look at that. So this is going to be the index 0 compared to index 0 right here. But the only thing is that index 0, we're not showing it right here. I'm going to show it to you right now in the browser and in the print R structure, so that way you can get the better idea. But right here, we are replacing index 0 by this label. This is called the key, first name. And then we assign it a value like this. We use this equal and the greater than symbol, and we assign it whatever value we want. For example, I want this value to be named Edwin. All right. So if I show you this on the screen right now, I'm not gonna do an echo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do print R, just to show you. All right. And let me see right here. All right. Let me show you the top one too. Let me just comment this out, and let's do the print R also on here. Print R. This is a really good thing because now we can refer to our data inside by name instead of by numbers. All right, so I have this array here on top. This is a regular array, by the way. All right. Let me put that break so that way you can see the difference. All right, right here. All right, so now we have two arrays, one on each line. All right, so this 0 that you see here is the key of the normal array. And right now what we did with associative array, this is the associative array, this is the second one. we change this key of 0, we change it to first name. You can see they basically the same. We got a little arrow here, and we got a little arrow here, but this little arrow in the normal array, we can't see it through here. All right, we can't see it. But if we use the print r function, we can see that they both are the same. The only difference that we're doing, the only different thing that we're doing is that we're changing the name of this key right here. This is called the key, and this is called the value. So we are changing the name of the key, the value of the key, right here, this 0 for a word, first name, and then we are referring to the value right here, and we're using this whole structure just like you see here in the back, right? Because this is something that is not available for regular people. If I don't use the print r function, if I just echo it, you won't be able to see that. So we are using the whole structure here. We're changing the index 0 for the first name label. So now we can refer to this by label. For example, if I want to echo this now, if I say echo, I just use names, and in between brackets here, I just say first name. Right here, look at this. First name. And I can refer to that value immediately. You see it right here, it says Edwin. Let me just take out the print r function out, and you can see that we can refer to the value inside the associative array by label. So if I have 1,000 lines of data inside here, I can say, you know what, I need the first name, and you can get the first name of that specific person. All right, you can get the last name. We can also make another one here, and all we have to do is remember we separate it by a comma. This is the same thing as a regular array. We separate by a comma, all right, and then we go ahead and write down again, for example, last name here. Let's just do underscore, and then we use the little equal and the greater than symbol, and we put the name, the value here, and say ds, right? And all I have to do here, if I want to print that out, is that I go ahead and write this down here, names, and then last name. Right, let's put a little space right here, and we are concatenating that. Remember that we put things together with this dot, and this is a string, this is a space that I'm putting right here. And as you can see here, we were able to use labels to get our data out of this array. A lot simpler than using indexes. They're using numbers, using little, as you can see here, using this numbers. If I want to refer to a regular data inside an array, I would have to use numbers like number 0, and as you can see here, for that, for Juanita, I get Juanita when I put 0. And again, if you imagine if I have 1,000 lines like this, I would have to write, oh yeah, I remember on line 700 I had a name, John was there, or Peter was in 701. That would be very confusing. Of course, this is gonna give me a error here because I don't have number index 701, but if I did, it would print it out. But you can see where we can use associative array. Now we can refer to a data by labels instead of by numbers, and so that way it's going to be a lot easier to remember. We got more uses for this. But anyways, I just wanted to give you a little introduction on associative arrays here. That way you don't miss out on them because they are very important, and you're going to be learning about them throughout your programming career. Thank you again for watching this lecture, and hopefully you were able to get some valuable information, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. All right, so we are in section 2 right now. Here are the practical app exercise. And what we need to do here, very simple. Step 1, make two variables called number 1 and number 2 and set one to value 10 and the other to value 20. Step number 2, add two variables and display the sum with echo. Okay, that seems pretty simple enough. And then here, make two arrays with the same values, one regular and the other associative array. If you want to pause the video and go ahead and do that, you can. As a matter of fact, I want you to do that. I want you to try, since we already went through this in the lectures, it should be very simple. So pause the video, go back, and if you need to watch that lecture, watch it and come and do that. After that, I'm going to help you out and do it with you. All right, so pause the video and do that. All right, so hopefully you were able to pause the video and did that. Now, if you weren't able to do it, don't worry. We're going to be able to do it right now. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So it's telling us to declare two variables, right? So let's start with the variables, number 1, and we're going to set it to 10. Then variable number 2, right? And we set this one to 20. Pretty simple enough. Then we are going to be echoing this, and we're going to be echoing number 1 plus number 2. All right, let's put this in. Let's concatenate a BR tag, so that way when we write the next steps, nothing is wrong with them, right? We got a space below that. So we got 30 right here, as you can see. Let me make it a little bigger. 30, perfect. Next, we got to make two arrays, right? So let's go ahead and make two arrays. I'm going to call the first one, it's going to be a list array, and it's going to be just a regular array. And I'm going to use the array function right here to make this variable an array, right? So I'm going to put different values here, and I'm going to divide the values by comma. All right, there we go. Perfect. So that's one array. Then I'm going to make the other array, and this is going to be array ASO for associative, and also going to use that same format right here, but this one we're going to make a little different. So I'm just going to say number here. That's going to be the key of the array, and I'm going to point the value of it. That's it. That's an associative array right here. All right, with a key of number and a value of 10. Simple enough. And we can echo. Let's echo the first array here, this one, the second array, I'm sorry, and let's make sure it's the same name. We can just copy and paste it here and do that. So here we put brackets, and we refer to the key of the array, so that way we can print it out if we wanted to, right? So let's check that out real quick. And you see that we can see the value of 10. If you want to print out the other, let's make sure we concatenate this with a BR tag. Actually right here. Let's just go ahead and copy that one. Put it above this one. And let's just echo the first one here, right? And the first one, remember, this is a regular array, so we got to echo it with the index of 0. And if we go back, you see the index of 0 is 23, the first one. And then this one is number. Right? Simple enough. Let's look at instructions. We don't have anything else. Perfect. So we are able to complete this section successfully, and hopefully you did the same. So I'll see you in the next section, and good luck. Thanks, and see you in the next lectures.